And it is time. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my live stream. My name is Tyler Ramsbey. You are watching Hack Smarter Live, or you're just watching my live streams on LinkedIn or YouTube. But yo, either way, it is awesome to have you. So a special hello to those of you joining me for the live stream, and hello to those joining after the fact for the YouTube recording. It really is an honor to have you here. And just for your reference, so you know, we are live streaming right now to 3 different platforms. So I am live on YouTube, I am live on Twitch, and I am live on LinkedIn. So you're welcome to join whichever platform is most convenient for you. I do my best to monitor the chat in all 3 different platforms, but if you say something and I ignore you, it's not on purpose. Just like say it 3 more times and I will eventually see your message. But for today's live stream, don't know how long it's going to be. Might be a little bit shorter, I'm not sure. But TryHackMe released a brand new room today all about HTTP Request Smuggling. Kind of a more advanced web app attack that, to be honest, I'm terrible at detecting. I think I've seen this in assessments a handful of times, but usually when I see it, it's because Burp automatically found it, and then I manually tested it that way. So I am not anything close to an expert at HTTP Request Smuggling, so I would love to dive into it with you, and we'll see if we can learn this together. And hey, if you guys can let me know what you think of the audio, I actually want a different song. This song is too monotonous. One second. Let's see what I can find for music for us real quick, y'all. Let's see if this might be a little more high energy. Let's check this out. What's up, Dario and Troy and Teraflops and Zach? And we got Reckless Gizmo over on Twitch. All right, there we go. It's a lot more high energy. I like that. All right, guys, let me know if the music's too loud for you. I'm adjusting things on my end real quick. I don't like a bunch of words, though. How long has the live been going? Hey, Janer, we are literally just getting started, my friend. The live has been on for maybe a minute. You lost it. What did you lose, my friend? It's just getting started, so you're not missing anything. I haven't even dove into the room yet. We'll just get my music switched out. All right. So what I was saying is we're going to dive into the brand new HTTP Request Smuggling room on TryHackMe. And if you're new to one of my live streams, what's a little bit different from the way I approach machines to the way others do is a lot of content creators will solve the entire room and then they just show you very quickly them working through it or answering the questions. What I want to do is, like I do all the time, is I go into it live. This is my full reaction to the room. Have not even looked at the room until now, just when I pulled it up and clicked start machine. So this is my initial first reaction as we walk our way through this. And I do web app pen testing as well as a bunch of other pen testing for a living. So if I'm able to provide additional context for you, I will do my best to do it. Angular asks, is this a free room? I believe it is, my friend. Let me check though. Yeah, this is a free room, y'all. I'll drop the link. I'm going to drop the link in all 3 platforms. So, as Papa Shell would say, how does it go? Boot up. Hackers come together and take command of the SOC. It's the THM army. No, that's later on. How does the attack box line go, y'all? Get your black hoodie, boot up the attack box. Hackers come together and take command of the SOC. That's what I was trying to think of. From the famous rapper, Papa Shell, the greatest lyricist of all time, I heard. That's what I heard about him. Am I coming to Hackspace 2024? I am not coming to Hackspace 2024. Be cool to go sometime, though. Seems like a really cool event, but I won't be there. The only event that I am at every year is DEF CON. So if any of you are going to be at DEF CON in Vegas this year, would love to meet up, grab a drink, grab some food with you. Would love to meet you. It would be a lot of fun to be able to hear you talk rather than just like my talking head on the screen. Would love to hear your story and hear all the things you're learning. And we'll also be happy to do kind of AMA as we work our way through this. So if you do have questions for me, you can ask them at the end. You can ask them now. I'll answer them as I go. Lucky said, thoughts on the AWS price on TryHackMe? I mean, I don't have too many thoughts on it. Like, I did the entire pathway. If you guys missed it, on my YouTube page, I have an entire playlist. I think it's 20 or 21 videos where I go through the full attacking and defending AWS pathway and TryHackMe. And kind of like how I do my normal TryHackMe rooms, I read everything. So you can get the entire path in its entirety from my YouTube page. But of course, you can't do it hands-on yourself without the price. I think it, Lucky, is it, what's the price? Is it $385 or something? I think it's like $385. I know they posted it on Twitter. I refuse to call it X because that's a stupid name. Let's check. Oh, maybe they don't post on Twitter much. Maybe I need to check LinkedIn. I think it's around the $300 price range. You know, I really don't have thoughts on it. And the reason I say that is like, the reason it's expensive. I mean, there's a few parts of it. One is they weren't planning on making that to the public at all. So originally, the only way you could access to the AWS pathway is one, you had to have a business account. And then on top of having a business account, you actually had to pay an additional fee to activate the AWS training for a limited amount of time. Then everyone was like, hey, can you allow us to pay for access? And they didn't want to do that, I believe. Like, I'm not TryHackMe staff, but I'm pretty sure they didn't want to do that because for them to give you access to the AWS pathway, they actually have to configure a full AWS account and environment for you for each pathway as you're working through it, which can get expensive really quick when you have, 2 million plus users. So there's no way they could offer it for free, even for VIP subscribers. So they had no other choice but to offer it at an additional price and outside of a VIP subscription. And part of that is they still need to make money on top of it. So I'm sure there's a price range in there for them to still make money, but it's just not cheap to do that stuff. Now you can do some of the training yourself using tools like CloudGoat, developed by the greatest pen testing firm on the face of the earth called Rhino Security Labs. And actually there's this cool YouTuber called Tyler Ramsbey who has an entire series on CloudGoat as well, showing you how to set up CloudGoat, and you can make your own AWS pen testing lab. But look, you're setting everything up, and that's the difference. When you pay TryHackMe, they set it all up. It's hands off. You can learn to set it up yourself, but it's a little more grunt work, so to speak. I've done both, though. How long did it take me to become a pen tester? Well, I was 28 years old, so 28 years of my life until I became a pen tester. Now I get what you're asking. So, I mean, my story is different because I wasn't in IT all the time. I was a pastor for 10 years in that world and did IT stuff on the side. First, if I'm drinking a lot of water, y'all, my mom came over, hang out with my kids, and we had soup and grilled cheese for supper, y'all. Like tomato soup and grilled cheese. Tomato soup and pizza make me like super thirsty, so I'm probably down in water while I'm talking. But anyways, back to your question. I was in IT full time for about 2 years. Started as an IT support. Level 1, so like the lowest of the low in IT support, moved on to IT support manager, moved on to an analyst role at a bank, and then became a pen tester. So, but it took me about 2 years, I think, from IT support level 1 to pen tester was a 2-year time frame. All right, let's dive into this machine now. If you guys do have any more questions, please let me know. And wreck this gizmo. Thank you for the kind words. Too kind. Our introduction. I'll zoom in a little bit for y'all. HTTP Request Smuggling is a vulnerability that arises when there are mismatches in different web infrastructure components. This includes proxies, load balancers, and servers that interpret the boundaries of HTTP request. For example, consider a train station where tickets are checked at multiple points before boarding. If each checkpoint has a different criteria for a valid ticket, a traveler could exploit these inconsistencies aboard a train without a valid ticket. Similarly, in web requests, this vulnerability mainly involves the content length and transfer encoding header. So let's keep that in mind. That's going to be a good note. Turn music down a little bit on my end, which indicate the end of a request body. When these headers are manipulated or interpreted inconsistently across components, it may result in one request being mixed with another. So we have the front end server, our attacker. We have our front end server. And so you can see a little bit about what we're doing here. Because of the way it's parsing things, On our front end server, we're doing this transfer encoding chunk, and then we're sending a malicious request, but you have to get this. This is all one HTTP request, but the back end server responds it as two different requests. So it'll receive this as your request, and then when the next user accesses it and does something, that'll be that user's request, and therefore you can kind of steal another user's session or bypass authorization in that way. Lord Gucifer said, did you see that allegedly someone claims he has root access to TryHackMe servers and he's selling it for 5K? That's the probably dumbest thing I've heard. No, I have not saw someone say that, but I can tell you they don't know what they're talking about. What do they mean by root access? Like what servers they're referring to? TryHackMe is run on AWS. So like when you spin up a VM, it's actually being spun up in AWS infrastructure. And that's kind of where those things are at. I don't know what they mean by root access. I mean, technically, I have root access to a bunch of TryHackMe servers as well because I elevated my privileges to root. But if they claim they compromised the AWS account, I'm saying, no, they haven't. They don't know what they're talking about. It's just someone trying to get clout. Saw it on Twitter. Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. Let me see if I can find it, though, because now I'm curious. Although I'm not logged into Twitter on here, so I may not be able to find it. Dude, Lord, can you drop me a link to that, dude? I can tell you the dude's a scammer, doesn't know, or she doesn't know what they're talking about, but I'd at least like to look at it and laugh at it. Okay. Back into this. Oh, sweet. Okay, he dropped it. All right. Let's check this out. Nope, that's not how this works. Hi. How much THM admix access? 5K is the asking price. How'd you get it? I exploited a vuln left in their source code. And more specific, in a CMS I have... Nope, that's not how this works. Nope. Okay, I can actually show you guys how they're scamming. I can show you exactly what they're doing. Here, 1 second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment. Such silliness. Okay, watch this, guys. So if we look at this screenshot, so they say this here is where we were basically testing all possible backend IPs, contains codes, contains user data, front end source, backend API scripts, and everything else. So you see this page right here, guys. It looks like some management page. You can see general management panel, and they claim they have hacked TryHackMe. They're literally all they're on is a business account. So it looks a little bit different. They blacked it all out, but I'm pretty sure it's all they're looking at right here is this stuff. I don't know what they're talking about. Is this like blowing up on Twitter at all? Only 13 reposts? Gosh, I'm not signed into Twitter, y'all. Is anyone talking about this on Discord? But anyways, it's just a scammer, y'all. Ignore them. Silliness. He must have used HTTP Request Smuggling to hack them. Alright. I'm getting too distracted. Request splitting or HTTP desync attacks are possible because of the nature of keep alive connections and HTTP pipelining, which allow multiple requests to be sent over the same TCP connection. Without these mechanisms, request smuggling wouldn't be feasible. When calculating the sizes for content length and transfer encoding, it's crucial to consider the presence of a carriage return and new line characters. These characters are not only part of the HTTP protocol's formatting, but also impact the calculation of content sizes. While testing for request smuggling vulnerabilities, it's important to note that some tools might automatically fix the content length header by default. This means if you're using such tools to run payloads, your content length values might get overwritten, potentially changing the test results. I think you need to actually turn this off and burp, but I could be wrong. Note that testing for request smuggling can potentially break a website in many ways or give you root access to all TryHackMe servers. Cache poisoning, other user requests may start failing, or even the backend pipeline might get fully desynced. So, extreme care should be taken when testing this on a production website. Sweet. Yo, Zach, thanks for hanging out, though, my friend. Good luck preaching. Dude, send me a link to the message when you preach. We'd love to hear it if it's recorded. Art objectives. Understand what HTTP request smuggling is and its impact. Identify HTTP request smuggling vulnerabilities in web apps. Exploit these vulns in a controlled environment. And understand and apply measures to mitigate and prevent these vulnerabilities. Make sure I'm not missing anything over on LinkedIn. Not we good. Prerequisite, some basic understanding of stuff. It says Burp Suite. We're going to try to use good old Cato. They actually just released an update today, so we'll check out the update. But we're going to try to use Cato, and we'll see if it works. Importance of understanding HTTP request smuggling. Smuggled requests might evade security mechanisms like web app firewalls. This potentially leads to unauthorized access or data leaks. I'm telling y'all, TryHackMe root access. Attackers can poison web cache by smuggling malicious content, causing users to see incorrect or harmful data. Smuggled requests can be chained to exploit other vulnerabilities in the system, amplifying the potential damage. And due to the intricate nature of this vulnerability, it can often go undetected, making it crucial for security professionals to understand and mitigate it. Deploy the target attack box. I already deployed my box right there. Modern infrastructure. Modern web applets are no longer straightforward, monolithic structures. They are composed of different components that work with each other. Below are some of the components that a modern web app usually consists of. So we, of course, have the front-end server. This is usually the reverse proxy or load balancer that forwards the request to the backend. Then we have the backend server. This server-side component processes user requests, interacts with databases, and serves data to the front end. It's often developed using languages like PHP, Python, and JavaScript frameworks like Laravel, Django, and Node.js. Databases, persistent storage systems where application data is stored. Examples are like MySQL, PostgreSQL, and NoSQL. And APIs, or application programming interfaces. Interfaces allow the front and back end to communicate, integrate with other services. And finally, microservices. Always makes you think of microtransaction in a mobile app game. Instead of a single monolithic back end, many modern apps use microservices, which are small, independent services that communicate over a network, often using HTTP REST or gRPC. Yeah, Reckless Gizmo's right. That's what they did. They did get login and post root access hacked. Yes, I bet, dude. I think Reckless Gizmo is the guy selling root access for TryHackMe. You want Dark Reader teraflops? All right. Your. Oh wait, we're not Chrome. Your request. I'll fulfill your request. How do I get it for free, though? Here we go. Yeah, thanks, Cyber Newbie. Hit that like button. I'm terrible at promoting my channel. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, even if you're not on YouTube, go to YouTube and what is it, like, subscribe, like, and share. I don't know what all the YouTubers say, but yeah, dude, like it, share the video. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Look, do other live streamers just listen to your suggestion right on the spot? Is that better for you, teraflops? Yeah, I'm like a genie. Answering wishes. No more bleeding eyes. Okay. Okay, sweet. Yeah, if you weren't subscribed before, at least, yeah, smash that like button. That's right, teraflops. Smash that like button, because I turned on dark mode, ladies and gentlemen. All right, load balancers and reverse proxies. Load balancers. These devices or services distribute incoming network traffic across multiple servers to ensure no single server is overwhelmed with too much traffic. This distribution ensures high availability and reliability by redirecting requests only to online servers that can handle them. Load balancing for web servers is often done by reverse proxies. Examples include AWS Elastic Load Balancing, HA Proxy, and F5 Big IP. Reverse proxies. A reverse proxy sits before one or more web servers and forwards client requests to the appropriate web server. While they can also perform load balancing, their primary purpose is to provide a single access point and control for back-end servers. Examples include Nginx, Apache with Mod Proxy, and Varnish. Role of caching mechanisms. Caching is a technique used to store and reuse previously fetched data. Keep that in mind for this attack. Are computed results to speed up subsequent requests and computations. In the context of web infrastructure, we have content caching. By storing web content that doesn't change frequently, like images, CSS, or JS files, caching mechanisms can reduce the load on web servers and speed up content delivery to users. And we have database query caching. Databases can cache the results of frequent queries, reducing the time and resources needed to fetch the same data repeatedly. We have full page caching. Entire web pages can be cached. They don't need to be regenerated for each user. This is especially useful for websites with high traffic. And we have edge caching, or CDNs. Content delivery networks cache content closer to the users at the edge of the network, reducing latency and speeding up access for users around the world. And finally, API caching. Caching the responses can significantly reduce backend processing for APIs that serve similar requests repeatedly. So we can see this. Is this an animation? Yeah, so browser cache, CDN cache server cache database, and that's what we're going to exploit. Caching, when implemented correctly, can significantly enhance the performance and responsiveness of web apps. However, managing caches properly is essential to avoid serving stale or outdated content. What sits in front of one or more web servers and forwards client requests to the appropriate web server? Well, if we look up here, that's going to be our load balancer. Or reverse proxy, actually, I think is what that one would be. Yep, and that forwards a request. Yeah, reverse proxy. Drink of water. I need to open the straw. I'm telling you guys, that tomato soup, I don't know if it's like the salt in tomato soup or what it is, but there's sodium. Dang, it makes me thirsty. All right. Behind the scenes, understanding HTTP request structures. Every HTTP request comprises two main parts, the header and the body. So we have our header here. We're making a post request to admin login, and this as well, really the request headers, and then we have the body down here. This is often data that we're passing. So here's a login of attacker and password of password. This is clearly how they also got root access to the TryHackMe servers. Request line. The first line of the request is a request line. It consists of at least three items. First is the method. So here we have a post request, which is posting data. This method is a one-word command that tells the server what to do with the resource. Second is the path component of the URL for the request. Admin login. The path identifies a resource on the server, which in this case is admin login. And lastly, the HTTP version numbers show the HTTP specification to which the client is trying to make the message comply. Note that HTTP 2 and HTTP 1 have different structures. We have our request headers, so that's the host, content length, content type, user agent, and transfer encoding. This contains the metadata about the request, such as the type of content being sent, the desired response format, and authentication tokens. It's like the envelope of a letter providing information about the sender, receiver, and nature of the content inside. And finally, the message body. This is the actual content of the request. The body might be empty for a GET request, but for a POST request, because we're posting or sending data, it can contain form data, JSON payloads, or file uploads. Our content length header. The content length header indicates the request or response body size in bytes. It informs the receiving server how much data to expect, ensuring the entire content is received. And we can see that here. 14. This means that the request or response data contains 14 bytes of data. Our transfer encoding header. The transfer encoding header right there specifies how the message body is formatted or encoded. One of the most common values for this header is chunked, which means the body is being sent in multiple chunks, each with its size defined. Other directives of this header are compress, deflate, and gzip, for example, that. In chunked encoding, each chunk starts with the number of bytes in that chunk in hexadecimal, followed by the actual data in a new line. So how do headers affect request processing? Well, headers play an important role in guiding the server to process the request. This is because they determine how to parse the request body and influence caching behaviors. They can also affect authentication, redirection, and other server responses. We can see a little diagram there for that. This is why when headers like content length and transfer encoding are manipulated or misinterpreted, it can lead to vulnerabilities. For example, if a server receives both headers and needs to handle them correctly, it might misinterpret where one request ends and another request begins. So how do HTTP request smuggling vulnerabilities arise? Well, they primarily occur due to discrepancies in how different servers, like the front-end server and the back-end server, interpret HTTP request boundaries. So, like, if you ever have kids, right, and your kids say one thing to, like, my wife, and then she says no, but they come to me and said, hey, she said yes, can we do this? I'm like, do whatever you want. If she said yes, right there, they are abusing the two different things, the miscommunication between them two. So you're like a manipulative child when you exploit HTTP request smuggling. If both content length and transfer encoding headers are present, ambiguities can arise. Some components prioritize content length while others prioritize transfer encoding. This discrepancy can lead to one component believing the request has ended while another thinks it's still ongoing, lead to smuggling. Example. Suppose, this is probably a better example than my child one. Suppose a front-end server uses the content length header to determine the end of a request, while a back-end server uses the transfer encoding header. An attacker can craft a request that appears to have one boundary to the front-end server, but a different boundary to the back-end server. This can lead to one request being smuggled inside another, causing unexpected behavior and potential vulnerabilities. So let's look at this. Here's us. We are the attacker, right? Black hoodie on. We're the attacker. The person getting root on TryHackMe servers. We send a crafted request with both headers and content length and transfer encoding order, right, to the front end. That sends a regular response back to us, but then this processes the smuggled request, and that also is going back to the front end. So when another person makes a request, they're gonna receive the smuggled request, I believe, if I'm understanding that right. All right, what request header indicates the request or response body size in bytes? This informs the receiving server how much you had to expect, ensuring the entire content is received. Well, that'd be the content length, right? Is it just content length header like this? Yeah, okay. Introduction. I'm assuming we'll eventually get hands on, but we'll keep going through here, powering through. Introduction to CL.TE Request Smuggling. CL.TE stands for Content Length Transfer Encoding. The name CL.TE comes from the two headers involved, obviously. In CL.TE technique, the attacker exploits discrepancies between how different servers prioritize these headers. Wait. Bro, did I just read this? Isn't this, that first part's literally a repeat, isn't it? Am I crazy? I think it's saying the same thing. Maybe it just wants to really drill that into us. Okay? It's in my head. So exploiting it for request smuggling. To exploit the technique, an attacker crafts a request that includes both headers, ensuring that the front end and back end servers interpret the request boundaries differently. For example, an attacker sends a request like this. So here's our first kind of request here. Post to search, content length 80, transfer encoding chunked. And then post update, host example, content length 13, and content type is admin equals true. Here, the front end server sees a content length of 80 bytes and believes the request ends after is admin true. However, so the front end server is going to receive all of this. However, the back end server sees a transfer encoding chunked and interprets the 0 right there as the end of a chunk, making the second request the start of a new chunk. This can lead to the backend server treating the post update as a separate new request, potentially giving the attacker root access to TryHackMe servers. Incorrect content length. When creating a request smuggling payload, if the content length is not equal to the actual length of the content, several problems might arise. First, the server might process only the portion of the request body that matches the content length. So, if this was an 80 but was instead whatever this is, like if the content length only equaled this, it might skip all of this in the first place, and that wouldn't even reach the backend server is what it's saying. This could result in the smuggled part of the request being ignored or not processed as intended. For example, in the below screenshot, the original size of the body is 24 bytes. Right? To verify that the content length is valid, we can check the submissions directory to verify if the whole body was saved in the .text file. Maybe that's the hands-on website we're going to do. Since the size of the body username test and query equals test is 24 bytes, setting a content length with a size lower than this will instruct the backend server to interpret the request body differently. For example, we set the content length to 10 bytes while retaining the original content in the body. The backend server only processes part of the request body, probably just the first part. Yeah, so it's only going to process the first 10 characters in the body, which is going to lead up to T. All right, what does CL.TE stand for? Content length transfer encoding. All right, let's see if I missed anything in chat, y'all. Take a break from the room, check chat. Nothing I'm missing on LinkedIn. Over on YouTube. Not said, I never like videos, but always yours. More people need to see your channel. Sweet, dude. Well, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Check out Tyler on YouTube. Cyber Newbie said, learning Python taking 100 labs in 100 days. That's not going so well right now. One lab takes me 2 hours and there's 5 labs per day. It's killing me. Hey, just go at your own pace, for real. What course are you doing? Are you doing the 100 Days of Python by, here, let me find it. Isn't there a 100 Days of Python course? Is this one? I did a good chunk of this course and really enjoyed it. I think it's this one. Yeah, yep, with her. I don't remember her name, but I found it really helpful. If you haven't checked out this course, I would encourage you to maybe switch to this one. This one's really well done. Only $12.99 today, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Introduction to TE.CL technique. TE.CL stands for transfer encoding, content length. This technique is the opposite of the CL.TE method. Oh, I need to slow down. Okay, gotcha. In the TE.CL method, the discrepancy in header interpretation is flipped because the front-end server uses the transfer encoding header to determine the end of request, and the back-end server uses the content length header. The TE.CL technique arises when the proxy prioritizes the transfer encoding header while the backend server prioritizes the content length header. So similar to before, but different headers that we're processing first. Example, if an attacker sends a request with both headers, the front-end server or proxy might interpret the request based on the transfer encoding header, while the backend server might lay on the content length header. This difference interpretation, yep. So for request smuggling, we can look at this. So here is the full request that we're sending to the front-end server, and it's going to finish at the 0, at least on the front end. So you can see this. We go all the way through transfer encoding. It's going to ignore even the content length header right here, at least the front end is, and it's going to stop at the 0. So this is going to be the full request that goes through to the back-end server. The back-end server, on the other hand, is going to go by content length. So I think with that understanding, it will go ahead and take this one in as well as this one, right? Let's see. In the above payload, the front-end server sees a transfer encoding chunk header and process request is chunked. The 4C, oh, that's what that is. It's hexadecimal. For 76 indicates that the next 76 bytes are part of the current request body. The front-end server considers everything up to the 0, indicating the end of the chunk message as part of the body of the first request. And see, y'all, I'm telling you, HTTP Request Smuggling is confusing. The backend server, however, uses the content length header, which is set to 4. It processes only the first 4 bytes of the request, so it's not going to process anything, not including the entire smuggler request. The remaining part of the request, starting from post update, is then interpreted by the backend server as a separate no request. The smuggler request is processed by the backend server as if it were a legitimate separate request. This request includes the isma_admin equals true parameter, which could potentially elevate the attacker's privileges or alter data on the server depending on the application's functionality. Transfer encoding and content length. Transfer encoding obfuscation. Introduction to the TE.TE technique. Transfer encoding obfuscation, also known as TT, stands for transfer encoding, as you may have guessed. Unlike the CL.TE or TE.CL methods, the TE.TE technique arises when both the front end and the back end server uses the transfer encoding header. In this technique, the attacker takes advantage of the server's inconsistent handling of transfer encoding present in the HTTP headers. The TE.TE vulnerability doesn't always require multiple transfer encoding headers. Instead, it often involves a single, malformed transfer encoding header that is interpreted differently by the front end and back end servers. In some cases, the front end server might ignore or strip out the malformed part of the header and the process request normally, while the back end server might interpret the request differently due to the malformed header, leading to request smuggling. Interesting. I want to see what this looks like. So here it is. We have the full request here. Transfer encoding chunked 1. So we're processing it twice. This is 76, I believe. So interpret the next 76 bytes as part of the request is what that's saying. So in the above payload, the front server encounters two transfer encoding headers. The first one is a standard chunked encoding, but the second one, chunked 1, is non-standard. Depending on its configuration, the front-end server might process a request based on the first one and ignore the malformed one, interpreting the inquiry request up to the 0 as a single message. The back-end server, however, might handle the malformed transfer encoding chunked 1 differently. It could either reject the malformed part and process a request similar to the front-end server, or, if we're lucky, interpret the request differently due to the process of the non-standard header. If it processes only the first 4 bytes as indicated by content length 4, the remaining part of the request returning from post-update is then treated as a separate new request. The smuggler request that the isAdmin equals true parameter is processed by the backend server as if it were a legitimate separate request. This could lead to unauthorized actions or data modifications depending on the server's functionality and nature of the update endpoint. All right. My server's still going, yeah. The vulnerable environment has ATS, or Apache Traffic Server, as the front-end proxy, Nginx as the web server backend, and PHP processing the dynamic content. Due to the differences in how ATS and Nginx prioritize content length and transfer encoding headers, there is a potential for HTTP request smuggling. Start by adding that to your etc host file. All right, word. All right. All right, cool. Gosh, come on, Firefox. Don't suck, bro. All right, so it features a home login contact form that enables users to access and send feedback to the developer. For demonstration, the submitted queries are saved to the submissions directory. Below is a screenshot of the application. Exploiting the application using Burp Suite proxy. So, like I said, I'm going to attempt it in Kato, and if it doesn't work, we'll switch over to Burp. Let me look over at chat. Reckless Gizmo said, speaking of taking it slow, any help with burnout? I haven't done any hacking this month. You know, addressing burnout is very unique for every single person. So, like, without knowing your specific situation, I'm not sure if I can provide the most helpful advice, except for this. And I mean it when I say this. I mean this for everybody, right? Not just if you're dealing with burnout now. Most important thing I'm going to tell you all on stream. Go to therapy. I'm telling y'all, therapy, professional therapy, is one of, if not the best thing you can do for your life right now. Mental health is important, emotional health is important, physical health is important. And just like we take our vehicles to get an oil change every 3,000 miles or so, or some meters if you live somewhere else, I only know miles, 3,000 miles or so, or kilometers would be European people. But we take our car regularly, right? For checkups, we should be doing the same for our mental and emotional health. So if you're truly struggling with burnout and that sense of depression and no motivation, therapy is one of, if not the only way, I think, that you can truly get to the root of it. Because of what ends up happening when we're in those places, if we don't go to therapy, we end up self-medicating. And we self-medicate with alcohol. We self-medicate with drugs. Like, yo, I've been to DEF CON. I know it's a thing there, right? We self-medicate with alcohol, with drugs, with gaming, with work. We become workaholics. All these different forms of self-medication because we refuse to deal with the true issues of our lives. And instead, we just try to cover up the symptoms by self-medicating. And then you end up in a darker and darker and darker and darker place. So once again, y'all, if that feels like it applies to you, start therapy today. There are some really good ones. BetterHelp is one of them, but BetterHelp doesn't accept insurance, which was frustrating to me. Hold up. One of my friends found one online that gears to your schedule, and they accept traditional insurance, but I'm forgetting the name. I'm actually going to look it up real quick. So I want to share it with you guys. Give me just a second, because I remember he messaged me, but it was in one of our messages from a few days ago, and we message a lot, so I got to go back and find it. Let's see. Here we go. Talkspace. Here's what it is, y'all. If anyone's looking for therapy, this is sort of like BetterHelp, where it's online and allows you, like, you get 24/7 access to your counselor. But BetterHelp does not accept insurance. Talkspace does. Now, I know, like, where I work, I have really good health insurance. So at least for me, this is completely free. My insurance covers this 100%. As many counseling sessions as I want, unlimited access to the therapist. So check this out, Talkspace.com. Okay. Get caught up on questions. Ken said, have you ever encountered these attacks in the real world? Bert flags them for me sometimes, but they're always false positives. Yeah, Ken PDX, I have the same experience. I think I have seen it once, maybe 2 times, but I have the same thing. Like when I run Burp's auto scanner, it's constantly discovering HTTP request smuggling, and it's almost always a false positive. So no, I don't see them very often, but honestly, the reason I may not see them very often is I personally find them confusing. So it's not something I dig into much because I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me anyways. But this room's actually helping me. Default Sex said, I'm not being able to focus on any boxes lately, even if I try, so I have to stop practicing for a few days before going back to it. I think that's normal, dude. I have the same issue, especially if you're studying for something like the OSCP. I had to take long breaks from that because I got frustrated. Taking breaks is healthy. Sometimes what I would do is, like, if I take a break from pen testing, then I like to switch over to learning blue team type stuff. Or when I'm sick of that, I like to switch over to, like, digging into coding, like doing a little bit of Rust and learning coding. Just learning different topics helps me with that lack of motivation for that specific area. Cyber Newbie said, wish I could afford therapy. Hey, so you might be able to. The reason I say that, now I don't know what city you're in, but when I was a pastor, I was making, I don't know, $30,000-$40,000 a year for a family of 4. So, like, I was below the poverty level, or at the poverty level. And that was like our total family income. And I went to therapy, but I found like a community therapy center that if you did not have insurance, they allowed you to pay based on a scale. And because of my income, like, therapy there was even, I think it was free, or maybe it was like $10 a session, super affordable. So I would encourage you to reach out to some maybe community counseling in your area. You might find a good option. All right. Using Burp Suite intercept request sent to the index. All right, let's use that as our baseline. So let's go ahead and do that. Query has been saved. Yeah, Cyber Newbie, like I said, like I don't know where you live. I don't know your context, but look into that. If you have like a community health thing you can call, talk to them. There's usually options for affordable or free therapy, even if you're like me. I didn't have health insurance most of my career because churches are poor. At least the churches I worked at are poor. I didn't get the cool mega churches with my private jets. Does Kato zoom in a bit? Yeah, is that better? Let me know if that's better for you. Maybe like that. Hope that's helpful. You know, I actually want to close some of these sessions too. I don't need all these sessions. Let's get rid of all these sessions. Yeah, no problem. Teraflops. Send the request to intruder and copy paste it below payload. All right, we can copy and paste it, but I want to understand it. So let's walk through this together. Let's remember the infrastructure. So it's due to the content link transfer. So is it the CL.TE exploit? Is that what we're doing? So we have our post request, right? Oh, we're going to put it into intruder. Okay. So we'll use automate. We have automate and burp. If you use Burp Suite Community Edition, intruder is very much rate limited. So this might work, but real attacks won't work. But in Kato, even the free version, you're not rate limited on the automated attacks or intruder attacks. So we're doing our post request. And we have our content length of 160. And then transfer encoding chunked. So our front end is going to receive all of this. Or no. Yeah. Yeah, our front end's going to receive all of this. Our front end's going by content length based on this. But the back end's going by transfer encoding. So the front end's going to receive all of this sent to the back end. The back end is going to see this and stop at that request and interpret this as a second request is what's going on here. So let's send this to automate right here. And this is what we want to mark. Oh no, I need to copy and paste their thing here. Let's copy and paste this actually. Whoa. There we go. I just have to mark this as what we want to do. All right, breakdown of the payload. Hey, peace out, Cyber Newbie. Thanks for hanging out with us. In CL.TE vulnerability, since the proxy or the front end prioritizes a content length header, 160 bytes of the body is assumed to be the body of the first post. Like I said, the front end thinks it's a single request and forces it into the pipeline, where the back end now prioritizes transfer encoding, ending the first post request at the first zero size chunk, and assuming the second is a different request. So I'm glad, I'm counting this as a win. I read that properly. I was understanding it properly. Payload positions. Go to the payloads tab and set the payload type to null payloads. Subsequently, on payload settings, input 10,000 to generate 10,000 null payloads. Guess I don't know how to do that in Kato. Trying to think of what null. I might have issues with Kato. I'm not sure. If they support like, oh, null payload. Oh my goodness, look at that. I just need to click around. They do support it. I want to do 10,000. All right, got it. Go to the resource pool tab, create a new resource pool. You may follow the screenshots below. We can go to settings here. And number of workers, that is a maximum concurrent request delay. This will be fine. Our setup right here. Let's YOLO it, dude. Let's turn this up though to 20. No, okay, we might break something. Let's keep it to 10 actually. Click the start attack button in your intruder tab to start the attack. Fingers crossed that Kato does it for me. Seems odd. I don't know if it's working. Here it goes. Still don't know if it's. I might have to switch. Shoot. After a few minutes, check the submissions website directory. See if the request of contact.php is smuggled, contain the requests of other users. Oh, I see what we're trying to do. Oh, maybe I broke it. Yeah, okay, I think it worked. But it's interpreting my request. Right? We have our query, test get. We're actually getting the HTTP request there. We have Nginx right there. So I think I broke it a little bit here. Let's cancel. I think I can just do the attack again. Did I add a delay? No, I probably didn't. Oh, we need a 2,000 millisecond delay? Okay, good call. Let's, we can just close this out. 2,000, right? 10 workers, 10,000. All right, let's try this again and not go to the application over and over again. So right now we have these, so you can see it went through again. So it was actually, oh, yo, we got it. Ha! It worked even without the delay. Look, it's right there. We have the password, ladies and gentlemen. I did it right on accident, even when I thought I broke it. That's awesome. That's really cool. I'm quite happy it worked. All right, so there's our password. Yo, if this was an initial access on a CTF though, I can tell you there's no way I'd get it. I really need to brush up on this better. But I used Kato successfully to do it. I didn't even need burp. Look at that. Got the flag. Boom. All right, conclusion. HTTP request smuggling is a vulnerability that arises due to discrepancies in how servers interpret request headers. The core of this vulnerability lies in manipulating the content length and transfer encoding headers, leading to ambiguous requests. These ambiguities can cause servers, especially in setups with front-end and back-end servers, to misinterpret the boundaries of each request. This misinterpretation could lead to various malicious outcomes, from bypassing security measures to accessing unauthorized data. So mitigation, consistent header processing, that's obvious, right? That's the core issue. Adopt HTTP 2. This offers a more robust mechanism for handling request boundaries, making a safer choice against smuggling attacks. Regular monitoring audits, right? Common things you should do. Educate teams. Awesome. I can now exploit request smuggling vulnerabilities. I mean, kind of. I can now I'm actually really happy it worked my first try. And that is the room. But I still have a question, y'all. I still have a question, because my question is, how often do we see this in the real world? So one thing I like to do is look up vulnerabilities in HackerOne. So let's do that together. Let's go to HackerOne. Let's see if there's any bug bounties that have been reported lately. And there are some. Let's check these out. Let's read through a few. Yes, that's one thing that leads to is cross-site scripting. I know that. We got API flocktories found to be vulnerable. Oh shoot, there's a tool for this. Smuggler.py. What's this tool? Learn new stuff when I do these things. Let's check out this tool, y'all. So target URL with endpoint. Okay, how did they do it? They just specified the URL. All right, what if we do that? Wonder if this will work or not. If it does work, potential CL.TE issue found, and then you can manually check it, I suppose. I'm just gonna let it run in the background. We'll see if it detects it. I like the colors though. I mean, even if it doesn't look, the colors look cool. And then I suppose you can see the payloads if you set up the log. So if we look at this one, we have this post request. So it's just like a POC. So they turn it into an HTTP redirect. And then just set up a web server to serve cross-site scripting. Yeah, I agree. It is much higher. Huh, cool. Nothing yet, but we're just gonna let it keep running. Oh, it didn't work. Now it could be something weird with maybe I have to do the request differently. So we have help URL exit method log file. I'm sure there's probably a special way to set this up. I'm gonna have to look into this further. But let's look at some of these other HackerOne reports. Poison the cache with an offsite redirect. So you gotta see this weird thing here again. We have our full post request followed by this get request. And then we're sending this to, is this the request bin link? $1,700. Look at that. And you know what? Like this vuln is so confusing, at least in my opinion, that if you spend, a couple of hours really digging into HTTP request smuggling and then jump on HackerOne and bug bounty programs, I can almost guarantee this isn't one of the low-hanging bugs everybody checks for. You might be able to get some really cool bounties out of this. I get 10% of the cut though because I showed it to you. Let's check this one. So similar stuff right here. So it took them a while. They're like, hey, I don't know how to do it. And then now they're able to validate it. $750 right there. 5% I show my mom your stream. All right, well, that answers the question. These are real bugs you will encounter in the real world, and you can get some pretty good bounties from that. Even if I'd stop sharing my screen, but if you just Google HTTP Request Smuggling HackerOne, there's a bunch of reports on this. So people are finding this in the real world and making real money through bug bounty programs as a result of it. And that's one thing I've always done. When I find a vulnerability that seems to be, to me, to be a little more like theory or like not real world, I always do HackerOne, the name of the vulnerability, and I like to read through usually a good number of reports, like 10 to 15 reports of that bug, and it really gives me a good idea of how people are seeing this in the real world and how I can check for it when I'm working an assessment for a client and Burp or something claims to find it in the automated scanner. So hey, hopefully you all found this helpful. I am going to sign off for the evening. This isn't going to be one of my 3-hour long streams. We'll stop at an hour, but I'll probably be back on tomorrow night and we'll do some more fun hacking stuff. But hey, just want to thank all of you for taking the time to hang out with me. Want to once again refresh LinkedIn so I'm not missing anything, which I am not. And the other crazy thing, y'all, I don't know if you saw my video I released yesterday about how to take notes. I've received that request a lot of my live streams, like, yo, Tyler, can you make us a video on how to take notes? And the only reason I haven't made a video is I thought, that's kind of boring. Why does people want to watch how we take notes? Guys, it's my most popular video in the whole past month. It's #1 rated. When I go to YouTube Studio, it shows this video in relation to your other videos, and it's my most engaging video of how to take notes. So if you watch that video, hope you found it helpful. If you have other video requests, let me know. I have some other short videos I want to come out with in addition to my normal live streams. But once again, thank you all for hanging out here. Really do appreciate you taking the time to be here. And if I can be like a traditional YouTuber, smash that like button or subscribe button. Do I say subscribe or like button? Or do I say both? Smash all the buttons. Take your keyboard, smash all the buttons on my channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. But yo, really do appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.